Okay, so this is my second art vlog video. This is a process video for a pet portrait I did of a friend of mine's sister's dog. This was a commission, so I was paid to do this. Just a shout out, if you would like any paintings like this of your own pets, or if you know anybody who would like it, feel free to message me. I'm usually almost always available to do these at any time. Just because they don't take a super duper duper long time. They do take a long time, but not a ton of time, and I love doing them. So feel free to give me a shout out. Also, if the audio quality on this video is a little bit poor, it's because my dog and cat have been playing on and off in the background, and I don't want to tell them to stop because I love them and they're having a good time. So forgive any of that. Okay, so the first step of this is I use Bristol paper, Bristol smooth paper. I use it for ink, I use it for watercolor. I know it's not watercolor paper and there's probably something that would buckle a little bit less, but this is the paper that I am most comfortable with. Lots of people stretch their watercolor paper. In the process of stretching, I mean, you could look at YouTube videos for it, but you essentially wetten the paper and then tape it down and let it dry so that when you add water to it, it will not buckle as much. But I think a lot of that can be really time consuming. So I don't do that either. I actually usually tape my paintings, the paper first, directly to either I have like an art board that I use as like a hard surface, or in this video specifically, directly down to the table is where I taped it. That's a little bit riskier because I do have a cat who likes to step on my stuff, so that is really taking a risk there. But if I think I'm going to finish it within the day or within 2 days, I'll usually do that, and then I'll just cover it overnight, or if I'm leaving it behind somewhere, So that's the first part of the process that you've seen. And then sometimes I start with the background on these paintings. Sometimes I start with the dog's form. A lot of my painting process depends on what I feel most comfortable doing, or I don't know. I think less about what's going to work best for the painting, which is what I should be thinking about. Like, you want to do the form of the animal first, most likely, which in this video is what I did. But, you'll see that, like, at one point I get a little bit self-conscious and I get nervous that maybe I'm not doing the dog form properly, or sometimes things just need to dry. That's one consideration you really have to take into consideration with watercolor, is that there are going to be parts of it that are going to have to dry, so sometimes you'll have to just get up and leave the painting to dry. And at least for somebody like me, who once I get in the zone, I need to stay in it in order to keep that flow, or else this could end up taking a lot longer. That can be a huge hindrance for me, so I usually try to keep that in mind when I'm painting and making sure that I am not necessarily painting one huge section all at a time, unless I know that I'm going to be able to take a break, let it dry, and come back and still be able to get myself back in the zone, because that is something that I have some issue with for sure. So this dog, I'm not sure exactly what the coat style is called, but I know that for corgis, you would call a coat that's similar to this a blue Merle coat, which I actually think is one of the most beautiful dog coats you can get. We're actually planning on, hopefully within the next couple of years, getting a blue Merle corgi to be friends with our current little Pembroke Welsh red corgi. Her name is Joplin. We don't have a name picked out for the next one we're going to get, but we're thinking of names. So I went with blue colors for this, violets, lavender, stuff like that I thought would look really good. I ended up going with I don't know the exact, not maroon, but this muted dark red background. It's one of the colors of this watercolor palette that I really, really enjoy. I actually use a fairly cheap watercolor palette in this painting. I use an Artist Loft. I think the whole palette only costs maybe can't be more than $10 because it's Artist Loft. A lot of people complain about the quality of the paints, which I personally, until maybe just a little bit ago, after this painting, I had a little bit of problem. Not this painting specifically, but I painted another painting after this one that did have this problem. I know that people have done a lot of reviews about how there's cracking issues with this paint if left for a while, and I've done a lot of commissions with this painting palette. I haven't had a lot of issues with it, but I did get this palette back when I was in high school or college, so I mean, we're going on 5 years or something probably now that I've had this palette, and I am starting to have this issue of cracking, so that is something to consider. I think I would like to get a liquid watercolor palette, but I haven't been able to find anything with these colors, and I personally, this is embarrassing to admit, but I'm not that good at color mixing yet. I'm better than I thought I would be by now, because it used to be like one of the biggest issues in my life artistically was color mixing, which I think I'm definitely getting better. But some of these colors I just don't think I would be able to adequately mix on my own. So the fact that like I can't find these colors in a liquid set, so far anyway, has been really, really hard for me. So if you find these colors in the liquid set, please send it my way. I'd love to get some new watercolors, since I love doing all these different watercolor paintings. It's a really easy medium to do if you are limited on space, limited on ventilation. Just generally, it's a really good if you are limited type of thing. So let's see. One of the techniques I do in a lot of my watercolor pet portraits is this blowout technique. I saw a corgi painting that was similar to this, not the same, but similar to this in a YouTube video from some dog trainer. I will try to find him and link him in the description since I am mentioning him, but I don't remember because I don't watch these dog training videos. It's something my husband likes, so I initially made my first pet portrait of our corgi Joplin for my husband's birthday. And I've really just expanded since that time. I've really enjoyed experimenting with the blowout style, experimenting with the colors and stuff. You know, a lot of the dogs that I do don't necessarily look this realistic. And I mean, this is still not realistic. Lavender is not the color of a dog, and I do use lots of lavender in this. But because the dog is already blue Merle, this is more realistic than I usually go. But the blowouts and the splatters, you know, you would think that I'd be a big fan of like Jackson Pollock or something since he's the big paint and splatter guy. But honestly, I didn't like that when I was in school. I still don't really like that. And I cannot explain to you why I enjoy this style so much. I honestly think maybe my husband sort of influenced my opinion on it because I know that he really likes it. And I think when you're married and when you love somebody, you tend to kind of develop a real taste for things that they like as well, which obviously he's done the same thing with stuff I like. But, yeah, the blowout technique I think is really fun. You do see in this video that I have to get down in there and like actually blow. You need a lot of water to make that work, so you need tons of water down on the page. That way there is like something to move when you blow. And then if you don't want it to get too light, you have to have a lot of pigment in there as well. So this is something you have to do very quickly because with that much pigment, it is likely to dry much faster. And you'll see in this video that at times it ends up much lighter than I anticipated, so then I add more pigment while it's still wet. That's also something you have to do very, very quickly. The blowout and the splatters and stuff is all very messy, all very quick. You really don't know how it's going to turn out, and like, it's really fun. It's really exciting in the moment because you just don't know what's coming, but it can also be really scary and nerve-wracking. Probably, honestly, a great technique for beginners, I would imagine. But let's see. What are some things that I think I did wrong in this? So adding the green, the like Viridian green, it ended up lighter than Viridian once it was actually down on the paper. But I think the Viridian green was not my best choice in color, but after I had put it down, watercolor is something, especially if you're not using, you know, watercolor paper, which can take a little bit more of a beating. Once it's down, and you've just got to accept it. So once I had put that Viridian green down, I knew that that portion of the painting was going to have to remain that color, and so I just tried to run with it, and I tried to make it good. I tried to make it work. Maybe you can hear those two running around now. I didn't really like it, but again, I just had to stick with it once it was down, because that's something you have to do with watercolor is once it's down, you are usually quite stuck with it, at least to some degree. Especially, again, since I don't use watercolor paper, which maybe that's another thing I should try out for myself, is getting some actual watercolor paper. The Bristol Smooth paper has been in my life for so long. I love it so much. I use it for ink. I use it for drawings. I have made comics that nobody's ever seen before, and I put it on there. I just think it's a really fantastic paper. So maybe that's something to try, or at least stretching the paper. Something else I had to consider while painting a dog like this is that the spots are really what make the identity of this kind of dog. There's always something. Every single pet that you paint, there's going to be something, you know, because like breeds obviously look alike. Like Joplin looks similar to other corgis, but she has particular spots, or she smiles in a certain way. Or there was what do you call them? A golden lab, a blonde lab, that I painted a while ago, where this dog had very particular eyes. So a lot of the golden labs will look the same, you know, but this dog had very particular eyes, and that was something I really needed to capture, because capturing the personality of the dog is really, really important. So in this case, I had to be really, really watchful of the spots, because with a spotted, speckly type of dog, that's like a big portion of the identity of the dog. So that was something I was really careful about. The dog had some spots that were brown and some spots that were that like blue, black, blue, gray type of color. So I did different colors for those, which I think worked really well. I used that like that reddish color for the brown spots, which I think worked really, really well. At one point, I kind of deviated from the blowout style in this painting, and I think you have seen that I did those like 3 lines underneath the dog, almost like shadow in green, which first off, I had already said I wasn't really feeling the green at this point, so I'm not sure. I don't know why I thought, well, if I add it somewhere else, that's going to work better, because it didn't. But I also deviated from the blowout style by adding the direct shadow, which I think also didn't really suit the painting very well. Which you'll see after I put down that first line. Maybe I hesitated a little bit because I was like, oh, I think I've messed up. But in order to try to make that work and fit with the whole thing, I tried to add 3. And I decided to make a mental note to myself to never do that again with a pet portrait. Trying to think if there's really anything else I need to add about this painting specifically. You'll see that these paintings can take a lot of detail. At one point I did try to go over the green to fix it. But yeah, the, eyes and faces are really important with these types of paintings. I had a really good time doing this painting. I think that this is one of my best pet portraits yet. And actually, initially, I had lost the footage for this, part of it, because my phone had filled up during the time that I had recorded, and so it didn't show that it had saved. But then a while later, I was looking through photos on my phone, and the whole thing had been uploaded once I had made more space on my phone and more space on my Google Photos. So lucky me that I even still get to have this video. But yeah, so that's probably basically everything about this painting. Watercolor paintings are a lot simpler. This is something that I've done before, so there's a lot less to say about like my thoughts on it. But I guess my biggest takeaways personally for myself for next time, because I do rewatch these videos when I'm feeling like doing another painting that's similar in style or something, These are like audio notes to myself, I guess, for painting. But big takeaways are: the eyes are so important, the nose, the mouth, and then the spots on dogs like these, the markings are really important for dog identity. And then just maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to try out color palettes on another piece of paper beforehand, because I think then maybe I wouldn't have made this mistake with the green. Oh, sorry, that's my puppy. Joplin! Anyway, I think that I did a good job trying to go over the green, and then I think maybe one more takeaway is doing direct lines like shadow. At least currently that's not going to work. Maybe it'll work in the future, but it's not going to work now. So yeah, that's everything with this video. I hope you guys, and I hope anybody else who watches this maybe enjoys watching the painting process. I'm also going to upload a time-lapse where it's just audio, like music in the background. That way, anybody else who doesn't want to hear notes about my painting style and my art doesn't have to listen to it, because these videos are honestly more for me, and they're cataloged on my YouTube video more for me, so that I know what I think I need to do in the future, because I do find myself having to relearn things very often, and so hopefully this will cut down on that. All right, enjoy the rest of the puppy.